Alright, today's Mr.O math vid, we're going to be talking about Box and Whisker Plots. And this is more of a lesson for my students that, because I'm going to be out. So I just want to pick up on the notes, give you guys a couple of examples. We'll do those and keep going from there. So what we have is Box and Whisker, which we've already drawn a picture of what that looks like. I just want to demonstrate what the different the different shapes look like. So just taking a peek at this. So this is going to be a symmetric graph. It looks fairly balanced. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to look fairly balanced in order to meet that criteria. Now, skewed left, again, just like in histograms, if it's got that tail that stretches to the left, then it's skewed left. So notice how that is much more lopsided on the left, and you can kind of see this. Look at the right 50% of data from the median to the maximum. It's not very wide compared to the left hand 50% of data, which goes from the median to the minimum. So in that case, it's much more stretched out to the left. And likewise, it's opposite on the right side for skewed right. So that's how you understand shape, and yeah, there you go. So here we go. We've got a problem. We've got these data points that represent, and don't miss this 19 right here. I missed it the first time and had to correct it in my work. But it represents the number of hours students spend on the internet. And so this was a survey. So what we've got to do is construct a box plot, or a box and whisker graph. And the way you're going to do this is you're going to use the calculator. And the calculator is your friend. Instead of you having to do all this work, the calculator will find all 5 of these values and more whenever you try and do box and whisker. And eventually I'll even show you how the calculator will make the box and whisker for you. But we need to go to Stat and then Edit, select number 1. If there's any data in here, arrow up so that the black box is on the list. Hit clear and enter. And do the same thing for L1 if need be. But in L1, we're going to type in all of these data points and hit enter after each one. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, 9, 10, 12, 14, 17, 17, 18, 19, and 19. And the way that you know for sure is if you count these up, there should be 15. So you're ready for the 16th data point. That's what the 16 inside of parentheses means. So we've completed that. We're done. We've got it put in our list. And now let's have the calculator find us these 5 points, or the 5 number summary. So push Stat, arrow to the right to calc, and we want to do this one variable statistics, because that's all we have is one variable, number of hours spent on the internet. So hit enter on that one. Whatever list you just entered your data into is the list you have to enter here, and in our case it was L1. If you notice above 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 in blue, you have the different list names. So you have to push second, and in my case 1, to get L1. Ignore frequency list, we didn't use it, and then finally calculate. And you're going to get this whole list full of things, and the 5 that matter are actually the last 5 on the list. So arrow down so that you can see all the way from minimum, from the minimum all the way to the maximum. So based on that, our minimum is 5. Our first quartile is 8. Our median, or second quartile, is 10. There was the one I needed to correct. Our third quartile is 17. And our maximum is 19. So how do we go about drawing this box and whisker plot? Well, first things first, you need a number line. And on that number line, you need to label your tick marks. You could go with many, many more, but because of Microsoft Word and me using the computer, I just went every 5. So there's going to be some estimation on my part when I draw this. So my minimum is at 5. So drew my line. Then my first quartile is at 8, so I need another line about right there. My median is at 10. My third quartile is at 17, so a little bit above that 15. There we go. And finally the maximum at 19, so almost all the way to 20. And then fill in the whiskers. So the whisker goes from the third quartile to the max and the first quartile to the min. And then I need to draw my box. So that is my poorly drawn box and whisker. And that's what it consists of. But now we've got to answer some questions. So first, what is the range? Well, the range, of course, is the maximum minus the minimum. So 19 minus 5. Oh, I didn't type that one in. So 19 minus 5 is 14. Then we have the IQR. And the IQR, the interquartile range from earlier in your notes we talked about was the third quartile minus the first quartile. In this case, it would be 17. 17 minus 8, which is 9. Okay, so I'm going to erase some stuff and I'm going to move down a little bit. And now you're going to answer some questions about the data. So the first one is, what percent of students spent more than 8 hours on the internet? Well, let's think about this. The 8 was at the Q1, which is 25%. So it wants to know more than 8 hours. Well, that would be the other 75% of our data, because we have 3 regions above the 8. We've got the region between Q1 and the median in Q3, and Q1 in the max. So that one would be 75%. What percent of students spent less than 10 hours on the internet? Sorry, I had to correct that. So 10 was our median, which is the 50% mark. So anything below should be 50% of the students surveyed. And finally, how many students spent more than 19 hours on the internet? Well, the maximum was 19, so the percentage of students that spent more than 19 hours should be 0, because nobody spent more than 19 hours on the internet. So just keep that in mind as we try to do, as you're trying to read the graph. The things are in 25% increments usually when dealing with things, especially if you're looking at the box and whisker.